I opened the door.
In case we have other people in. Okay, we'll call this Monday, May 15th, Jamestown City Council work session to order. With the clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sheldon.
Here.
Here. Aruba. Here. Reynolds.
Present.
Faulkner.
Here.
Russell.
Here.
DeRosa.
Here.
Eklund. Here. And President Jones.
Here, thank you. At this time, we'll give the opportunity for the public to speak. If you would like to address the council, please give your name and address and limit your remarks to 5 minutes. Anyone like to address the council?
Gary Mooney. I live in the Hotel Jamestown, 110 3rd Street down the street here. I've been consistently speaking before your committees, and I'd like to announce that I will be doing my street performing starting tomorrow, and I will be working various locations as allowed by law. I invite anyone to watch my performance live streamed at the website on the heading of my newsletter, which is jamestowncomedy.org. I will be broadcasting my performance live so that anybody can see what I'm doing out there. And I invite you to come down tomorrow. I'll be on 4th Street in this vicinity. And thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to address the council?
Doug Champ, 225 Bowen Street, Jamestown, New York. I'm basically here tonight to kind of listen to what the BPU is talking about regarding the Climate Act in the New York State and the other issues assorted with it, because I felt it was important that they have input on this before the city council makes a final decision. On the surface, it looks like everything is doable and workable. But in the long run, of the way the state of New York is being presented by electrification and a bunch of issues assortedly with fossil fuel degeneration, it's critical that the BPU present to city council what the impacts are going to be on the utility, not just next week, but 5 years from now or more longer. And whether or not some of the issues like running the turbine and using fossil fuels for load management generation is going to continue, be phased out, what effects that has on the ratepayers, when the different rate structures come into play on terms of substituting that and the revenue derived from running the turbine. There also is something that's critical, not just on the Climate Act and the effect of you all being involved with deciding whether or not you want to sign aboard that, because that's just the first step in this whole process. I mean, if you don't do it, you're really not going to harm yourself. If you do it, you're going to benefit yourself to some extent, but then you should look at the second generation part of that in terms of where you go after that. Do you effectively change the way the city looks at the future regarding renewable energy and no fossil fuels, audit and management of buildings, supply chain, purchasing, all of this stuff comes into play down the road. And it's all going to have to be metered out in terms of what the return on investment to the community is. So also, I think it's important at some point in time that all this discussion tonight will not necessarily be about everything I'm talking about, that city council and the BPU board meet together. Now, I don't know how many here know who the members of the BPU board are and give me their names, even know who the chairman is. I think it's time that this connectivity be improved upon. And why? I think the future depends upon it. So even though the BPU meetings are finally streamed, and you can listen to them wherever you may be and watch them as well, which is a big step forward, I think it's important that you understand such things as if they approve the microgrid, the allocation of the local share money, which is $3 million, if they get funded, will have to come from the ratepayers. What does that mean? That means the electric rates will change to the user base. I'm not against a micro turbine, I just think there's areas of interest that are kind of coupled together in terms of our community and the ability to afford electrification, new electrification of houses. When we have houses, it'll have a 100 amp service. The cost to restore a house, the 200 amp service, is fairly expensive. And another thing too, EV vehicles. EV vehicles, if they're purchased by the owner, there's no incentive for that individual owner through the BPU. The BPU should have a residential EV opportunity to underwrite those costs, if in fact you want electric vehicles. Because now it's just corporate, it's a corporate type entity. If you're large, you can use it. Sure, you can charge downtown, but people want something at home. Because the batteries that we have in the Northlands don't hold up too well to the winter requirements associated with batteries like they do in Miami. So all these are important, and I'm eagerly awaiting Dave's interpretation of what will happen to the BPU down the road, and whether or not you should sign on or not sign on is all up to you. But I think there's a lot here at stake that you need to incorporate in your decision making. What is the return on investment? Is it just language, or is it actual investment opportunities that the city is going to benefit from? Because I have not seen anything variously different than what's there 25 years ago when I left.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Seeing none, Dave, I'll move to you. You're up. And, I'd asked Dave to come for a couple of reasons. One, to discuss this city's resolution. I know the council had some questions about it, and if you have questions, you're going to address that, as well as some other update us on some other information on the BPU, just kind of
Yeah, I'll just lead with Tony and I have had a couple of conversations on this, and I see that there's been questions in prior meetings. The Climate Smart Communities Pledge that the council would be considering is a municipal effort. It is a city effort. That's what the program is meant for. The Board of Public Utilities, we're very much focused on the Clean Energy Standard and the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. Those are state mandates, state laws that are focused on significant changes in the New York State economy related to greenhouse gas emissions and green energy, as well as transportation and buildings and agriculture and waste and industry. So that really is where all of our efforts and all of our focus are. My view of this pledge for council is it's up to you and the administration related to any items you would like to pursue under the a la carte menu of everything that could be done should you take that pledge and decide to go forward. I think you've talked about you need a coordinator and you need a task force. Other than that, you can pick one thing a year, you can pick 20 things a year. It depends on what the priority is compared to all the other workload you have. It depends on how aggressive you want to try to implement with the resources you have. But I think that just approving a resolution to take the pledge, I don't see it as some huge significant step, and I definitely don't see it as anything that's going to impact the BPU operation. There's many items in there that the city administration and the council can select to say we want to find out more about this, we want to try to implement this, we want to try to do these things in the next 12, 18, 24 months. I don't think taking the pledge and approving the resolution commits you to anything hard. If in a year from now you've gone into this and you decide that you want to rescind that resolution for some reason, you could do that. There are items in the list of potential tasks that the BPU staff would be happy to be involved in and would be supportive. But the program is built on it being a municipal-led effort, and in this case, a city-led effort, and that's really what most of the work entails. And I do think that from an administration perspective and the mayor, you know, this program's been around for quite a while. It's getting to the point now where if you're applying for other grants, you're applying with applications, that you're gonna get extra points as an example for being a climate smart community. And so, you know, there's probably more reasons now to move in that direction. But I wouldn't say that it's an urgent item that the council needs to consider and do. If you have other items on your list, whatever staff workload is, you know, that's, from an outsider looking in, I don't have those answers. I think it's up to you where you see that in the current priority list with everything else that council and the administration and the staff are dealing with. Because I know there's a lot going on. Are there questions to that?
Would it hurt the city financially or the BPU if that was not approved? Like you mentioned, the grants, and they're applying for grants. If we do not vote on that, or if we do and it gets voted down, would that either hurt the city or the BPU from a financial standpoint?
I don't think so. I mean, that could change. But from what I see in front of us related to grant applications, I don't think so. I know there's been talk about who the coordinator would be, who would be on the task force, what are initial priorities, and even the resolution itself, right? The resolution itself doesn't have to be adopted as it was given as an example. I think the only thing that needs to be in there is the resolved section, but all the whereas, I think the council can come up with, but I don't know how much of that you've worked through.
David, in your opinion, out of those 10 things that the pledge covers, aren't we doing a bunch of those already?
Sure.
That's the way I look at it. I think we're doing a heck of a great job in being a smart, climate smart community already. And then on the 4 pages of items that apply to the grant, you know, to the initiative, we're doing a gang of them already. And like you said, if we find something that on this list that we think should be a priority, you'd be willing, or the BPU would be willing to coordinate with us and administration on any of those projects.
And we do that
Now.
now.
Yeah.
To your point, we've already collectively got credit for many of these things.
I think that was one of the points made, that you could actually, even though we've already done them, they could be part of what the current plan is, and you get credit for what you've already accomplished.
Right.
So it did not mean if you've already done it, you can't get credit in any applications going forward.
Yeah.
One of the things we talked about too was, this, whether you pass it or not, doesn't lock us into anything at all. So again, I think there was a concern that by passing this, that somehow we would be.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. From some of what I've seen the discussion is, you know, one of the things was stop and take a break and see how this impacts the BPU or what the BPU thinks of it. So I wouldn't make this out to be something more than it really is, right? This is, you're passing a resolution to take this pledge that you intend to work on a few, or many of these items. And I don't think it's too much more than that. there's a lot more coming down from the state level than your decision on this.
Maybe I missed it. From the time you take the pledge to completion, is there a time frame or? Okay.
Crystal, were you still working on some stuff for it though?
I think the last time that we discussed it in a council meeting, we had talked about who would be the coordinator, who would make sense to be the coordinator, if there would be some kind of a cost for that. So, we haven't put specific numbers together for that, but I think it makes sense for probably the planner, whoever the principal planner is, to kind of be the coordinator, project manager of it, right? It's a matter of when we do the projects, and same thing we do with complete streets, right? When we have a project, we look at the project, a street project, through the complete streets lens, and we try to hit as many of those things as we possibly can. Not every street project is going to fall into the category or tick all the boxes for a complete streets project, but it will hit some of them. So it's kind of the same idea. Any project that we do, whether it's, I don't know, heating upgrades to City Hall or changing out, I don't know, installing solar panels somewhere or doing rain gardens in a park. Any project we would look at through the lens of, does it check any of the boxes for climate smart communities? And if it does, that coordinator would then just go online, add what the project is. It's really easy to do. I've done it myself. Takes maybe 10 minutes. Add in whatever information it is that they're looking for, and that's really pretty much it. So as far as their time, the principal planner's time, that wouldn't require a whole lot. I think where maybe the most amount of time would just be for them to say, who's the stakeholder group, and how often does that group meet? It could be something and I'm not volunteering this for planning commission, but it could be something planning commission could oversee. You know, they're responsible for kind of the oversight of planning anyway, and I'm just spitballing here, so don't lock me into anything. Right, but off the top of my head, I think that would just kind of make the most sense. So I think cost-wise to the city, it's negligible.
I guess, going back to a discussion we had about other projects that came in front of us, that we would like to have that in front of us as well, as what the cost is before we jump on board as well. I mean, it's kind of imperative, not that we're not gonna do it, but I think we need to know what we're faced with and what.
Sure. So I can look and see if there's anything more based on what other communities have found, as far as the amount of time that would require for someone to oversee that.
Right.
And I'm happy to do that, but again, I don't think it's outside of the realm of what the principal planner's job is.
Okay.
So.
Any other questions on that topic? If not, if there's anything else you wanted to update us on from BPU news or?
I don't have, too many other items. I don't know if anybody has questions on any of the other divisions or any of our operations. Is there anything that anybody would like to know more about?
Always an issue. How is the recycling and garbage collection going in terms of use of the containers properly, using the proper recycling things, compliance with the recycling, how many people are doing it? Again, that ties in with all of this other about the recycling efforts that you put in. Are people actually doing it, and how many are doing it, roughly?
Yeah, never perfect, but I think it's going really well. I think from a container standpoint and a compliance standpoint, it's improved greatly. If we look back 12 months, I think there's been a bit of a focus on containers left out on the terrace for more than a couple of days, and trying to remind people that it's city code requires that to be removed, and we can't have it sit out there all week long. Some people aren't comfortable with that. Other neighbors want it addressed, and so I think that garbage and recycling is something where not everybody will be happy all the time. I think we're still well over 80% on recycling more than once during a billing period. It doesn't mean that everybody recycles every week, but well over 80%, nearing 84%, I think, of our customers are getting that recycling credit each month. And the containers and the whole program, I think, have helped our employees greatly as well. I think that from a physical standpoint of lifting and moving bags from needles and glass and sharp exposure, I think from a health and wellness standpoint and employee safety, it's been a great program for us. But for those that have needed 2 containers, I think they've worked through that process and have those. I think people are now more comfortable that if they have a week or 2 and they have extra garbage, that they can just order a separate pickup for a nominal fee. And so, part of that is, time where everybody's becoming comfortable with the program. And just to be clear, the container and the compliance, we don't do it 12 hours or 24 hours. We do it at least 48 hours. And even if we send a letter about a penalty or a fee, a lot of times we waive that just so that they're understanding that, there's something you need to comply with here as far as the rule goes, and make sure you're aware of it. And I think that's worked out fine as well.
I've noticed a big improvement since the beginning of the program in terms of people taking their cans in and kind of following the rules a lot better than when it first came out. I think there was a lot of people had to get used to the process, but it seems to be better, and I don't get the complaints that I used to get initially when it first came out. People seem to be.
Yeah, we'll be tweaking some things too on our routes. So some of our routes have ended up to be a little bit uneven. So I think there's a small group that normally is picked up on Thursday that'll be moved to Friday in the next couple of months, and then we'll work our way back to Monday. But we're kind of trying to flatten the workload across the week. It won't impact a huge number of customers. So from a council perspective, if you hear that people are getting a communication that their day is changing, we'll work through that with them. And just make sure that they know that their garbage being picked up on Thursday may now be on Friday. But this is not something from a city alert standpoint. This is something that we'll be rolling out and communicating with those impacted.
Do you put messages? A lot of times people will ask like the holidays, which holidays that you don't pick up on, and then people end up putting garbage out. It stays for a couple of days. Besides the announcement in the calendar, is there any other public service that, as a reminder, does that go in the Post Journal? Do you know? Or?
Sometimes it goes in the Post Journal, mostly it's on Facebook and Twitter.
Right. Okay.
And on our website, we have spotlights.
Right, it's one of the spotlight
People can't
items.
remember if they don't. Like,
Yeah.
There's New Year's Day, there's Christmas Day, there's which days you don't pick up, which holidays. I think it's about 5. There's 5 days on it. Yeah. They can't remember
Memorial
which
Day,
ones.
Memorial Day, Labor Day.
Yeah, there's a few.
Look at the calendar.
Memorial Day, July 4th, Labor Day, Thanksgiving impacts, and Christmas impacts. Typically, I think.
We have just added, President Dulce, we have started picking up BPU alerts and pushing it through our emergency alert system as well for anyone that has chosen utility as an option. So BPU also maintains their own text message service, and we amplify that message for them.
I always get text messages. They picking up garbage as well?
I guess the only else is, how did the water main flushing go this year?
Again, until I hear differently, I think it went very well. We were able to start on the eastern end of the system at the beginning, that weekend of April 29, April 30, and get through that. And I think the weather was supportive, and I think that it went really well with minimal complaints. minimal disruptions.
No, I didn't get any this year, and the telephone calls before and learning that when we're affected by the downtown flushing in our area helped tremendously this year, and being alerted to that it starts at 4:30 in the morning.
And just know that each time we do this, we still are learning and we still are tweaking how we do it. And so, you know, our goal is as little disruption as possible. Again, this used to be done overnight. One of the reasons was employee requests, employee safety, their ability to do it effectively in the dark as well. And so we tried to get it to 8:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon so that we weren't disrupting as many customers. And we continue to work on it. So I think it's gotten better, and this spring I think went well. Thank you.
How many years have you been doing it during the day? Do you know? I don't remember. Somebody was asking me, I said, it's been a while.
It's gotta be 8 or 10.
And I said it was for employee safety, that it really was, and people, I don't know that they just forgot that they were
Well,
doing it.
You
Yeah,
know,
I'm just saying,
the
yeah.
diffusers that we put on the truck, you're trying to not have a stream of water be disruptive, right? And I think in the dark, you can't tell if you're, right, that was another change we made, but in the dark, you can't tell what you're doing to somebody's terrace or their lawn, right? And where exactly that water's going, so, or how soon the water's clearing up. So, I mean, there was operational productivity, efficiency type of reasons, as well as employee safety.
Yeah, that's a big factor, though. People don't realize how difficult it is at night in the dark when people aren't. And there are people that drive at night and go to work at night, and they're putting yourself at risk. One other question, nobody else had. These things are fascinating to me. Looking at other communities, the dreaded question: do you anticipate any large increases in any of the services, either electric, garbage, or sewer at this point, or maybe too early to tell? I don't know, just asking.
Ask the question again. You started with other communities.
Yeah, but, well, I'm looking at Buffalo, places like that, where they're, having tremendous increases in their costs and raising rates, I guess that's what and Buffalo's certainly not here, but I'm thinking, are you anticipating our costs going up at the tipping, at the landfill, things like that, or do you think things will be relatively stable in terms of cost?
I think there's certainly risk for that. The last year to year and a half has been really difficult on inflationary expenses. You say supply chain, but that's real. Vehicle acquisition, just running the business, I think, is a lot more costly and much more difficult than it was 15 months ago. So that's real. We've tried to manage, control expenses as we're experiencing, higher costs. And I think we got through 2022 okay. I think the only division we had a rate increase was water. And looking forward, I'm concerned about the electric rate for our customers. Nothing related necessarily to a huge rate increase for customers, but a lot of the state fees and state mandates are going to be coming through our fuel adjustment, which is the variable part of our rate. We've already got zero emission credits, subsidies for the nuclear plants, and we've got renewable energy credits. So those charges are already in our bill, and there's going to be more of those state mandated Climate Act items that are shared throughout the state. They're not necessarily specific to the areas where the projects are serving. So there's Tier 4 renewable energy credits, there's offshore wind renewable energy credits, there's energy storage renewable energy credits, there's transmission projects and transmission costs that are load ratio share, which means those costs get spread across the state. So I think between now and 2026, now and 2027, there's exposure that electric bills could go up separate from whatever we do with our electric rate. I do anticipate that we would approach the Department of Public Service for a rate case in the next year or two. Our last minor rate case, that order came out in March of 2016. So it's already been 7 years since the last rate adjustment, and that was pretty nominal at that time. And the rate increase prior to that was in August of 2010. So I think the electric division hasn't really had many rate increases. So we'll probably be looking at that, but I don't think that that'll be too significant if we do pursue that. And then the rest is water, wastewater, solid waste, and district heat. You know, we do our best to manage it so that we don't have large increases, and we'll continue to do that.
Thank you.
The state fees, or I'll refer to them as taxes, that New York State is imposing upon us, is that the result of us using fossil fuels?
It's a result of the clean energy standard that was passed, I think, in August of 2016, in the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act that was maybe July of 2019. That created the state direction, and this is all part of that state direction.
Why are these state fees not line items on customers' bills?
I think when the clean energy standard came out in 2016, it was specific that that wouldn't be the case.
Do you know why that is? Why would New York State not be transparent with people on what fees they're having to pay, and which, and the BPU has to obviously, and I don't blame the BPU, but obviously has to pass on to customers? Why would New York State not be transparent with people to show these fees that they're paying on a monthly basis?
Yeah, I don't think I have that answer. I mean, there's tons of transparency in the standard and in the law, right, and in the Climate Act.
But the customers, when they open their bill every month and they look at it, they're just seeing one amount.
And the
And
fluctuation.
if that amount's gonna continue to go up because of these fees, I refer to them as taxes, but, you know, I just, and this is nothing on the BPU, this is nothing on the city, it's more of a New York State thing. I think New York State needs to be more transparent and let all of us know what we're paying for every month, and why our bills are gonna be going up.
David, on the newsletter that came out today with my BPU bill, I noticed that there was quite a few sponsors for St. Susan's, the initiative that you put together. Is that pretty profitable for St. Susan? Has it been a win-win, so to speak, for these contributors and for St. Susan's?
I think it's a really significant part of St. Susan's annual budget.
Great.
Most of the recognition needs to go to Becky.
I call it.
She does a ton of work really throughout the year, but you know, at this time of year annually, you start up before March. And
Got a number of
you know,
them.
we're super thankful for our large sponsors, and we're hitting numbers in the last few years that are probably $10,000 more than what was typically raised in a given year. But we've been in the $26,000 to $27,000 range, which is
Wonderful.
really amazing. And we've got some somewhat anonymous donors that have provided significant amounts. So, you know, everybody is supportive of our coordination of this fundraising, and it's super meaningful to be able to do that for them. And it's positive for the community for sure, so thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, anything else?
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks. Come more often.
Well, as always, and you know, especially council, I appreciate very much when you have any questions, you call, you text, you email. So, you know, we're here to support you and be responsive, and so we take that really seriously and you know, appreciate you reaching out whenever you need to.
I think we owe you a great deal of credit to the community here that we have probably, I would say, the best electric service anywhere by none, and probably the most affordable in this region. So I think people who leave the city and pay rates outside the city or come from outside the city to inside the city really value and appreciate what they get for the service that you provide. So kudos to everybody there for the efficiency and everything you do in spite of the fees or non-transparency. Like every other utility company,
Sure.
they're all hidden fees. Look at your phone bill,
Yeah.
and there's another story. But no, credit to everybody that there are very few downtimes with power outages. We can't say that about our other surrounding areas, and all the tree trimming that you do to manage the lines, everything, just top notch, and I think it's a credit to the community that we have, you and have.
I never want to talk about it because I don't want to jinx it. So
I don't care.
one of the
I
most
don't
difficult
care.
interviews I've done is when we set up before Christmas in 2022, when that blizzard and cold and wind and snow was coming, was an interview to say, "Are you ready?" And it's really difficult in front of that to talk about it because you don't know what's going to happen. But I will say that Chris Rogers, our T&D manager that recently retired, now Chris Selstrom is in that role, that entire team with Sean O'Boyle, Steve Hoagland that recently retired, Ty Fleury now, but everything in that department, we're hitting record reliability indicator numbers, which means that, you know, what's the frequency of when somebody experiences an outage, and that is it's extremely low, and then what's the duration? I think that we've got the duration down just over 10 minutes, and there's national indicators that duration is 7 hours, right? And so we try not to have many electric outages, and when we do, we try to get the power turned back on in a short amount of time. And so those are indicators that we track that I think are really important. And I guess just to play on that a little bit, I want to make sure that, you know, what I'm doing at the national level with the APPA and at the state level, you know, we always talk about electricity and reliability as keeping the lights on, but I don't want people to talk about that anymore, because with all this electrification, really it's you know, you're impacting people's lives if you're not reliable, and so it's much more than keeping the lights on, right? It's life-saving services, and having people to be able to manage and get through their daily lives. So.
Oh, just want to highlight it, because you're right,
Thank
it's
you.
very rare, and I don't know that people appreciate how much the effort goes in to make sure that.
A lot of
things
effort,
are there
yes.
for people. So,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to our committees. I know we did not have housing, so Kim, our housing was the public hearing tonight. And Kim, you want to go into finance?
Sure. We had a bunch of resolutions for travel. The first resolution was for Elliot Ramondo and paralegal Tanya Tabor, authorized to attend the New York State Public Employer Labor Relations Association, July 10th through 12th, 2023, with expenses paid pursuant to General Municipal Law 77B. Mayor, you heard me ask, and I didn't want to bug Elliot at home, so I'll send him an email, but I don't recall ever sending the paralegal, and I wanted to get an understanding of, with the changes we had, is she going to fill a vacancy or whatever, but he did include the cost, so I will say that for all these travel resolutions, some of them did not have costs associated with them, so I wanted to make sure, because they're so far out, that we actually have budget amounts available for that. So I don't think there's issues with the travel per se, but on resolutions 1 through 4, we were looking for that, so,
Okay.
Just the costs.
Yep. We'll get those over to you, and I'll have Mr. Ramondo reach out with
yeah.
those additional questions.
Thank you,
Yep.
appreciate it. So that involved resolution number 2, which was the executive assistant to the mayor to attend the National League of Cities November 16th to 18th in Atlanta, Georgia. Resolution number 3 for the executive assistant to the mayor to attend the Mayor's Innovation Project Summer Meeting, August 9th through 11th in Scranton. And then, resolution number 4 is for Mark Schlemmer to attend the annual highway school sponsored by the New York State Local Technical Assistant and hosted by Cornell Local Roads Program at Ithaca College, June 5th through June 7th. And no one had issues with it, it was just the budget amount. And I know that's a seminar Mark has gone to every year, so nothing different there. So moving on to resolution 5 was the mayor and Mark Ritzer, acting director of public works and acting director of parks, recreation, and conservation are hereby authorized to execute an agreement with Lakeshore Paving of Jamestown for cold mill and overlay on Roland Road 2023 project based on the bid opening of May 10th, 2023 for a total bid amount of $379,704.00, subject to the approval of the Corporation Council as to form. That was approved. Resolution number 6 is resolved that the mayor, Mark Retzer, acting director of public works and acting director of parks, recreation, and conservation, and they hereby are authorized and directed to purchase from Freightliner Maintenance of West Seneca via the town of Hornellsville award resolution dated 12/2018 for a qualifying agencies or political subdivision set forth under New York State Municipal Law Section 103, piggybacking 2 new 2024 Freightliner 114 SD plus chassis with dump body trucks for a total amount not to exceed $356,240.00, subject to the approval of the Corporation Council as to form. And then this is paid through New York State DPW CHIPS. The question we had is, anybody ever purchased vehicles through CHIPS, and is it legal? Have we done that here, I guess?
Yes.
Okay.
It's fairly common. It does require a lifespan. There's specific guidance under the CHIPS regulations, and just for the council's understanding, CHIPS is currently sitting at $3 million.
Yeah.
We're currently sitting on $3 million of CHIPS funding from the state.
Okay, and resolution 7, we really did not discuss because we are in fact waiting for our meeting with FEMA, and Zach did come in and present to us one of the numbers I had asked for, and I believe, did you email that to everybody?
Yes, I emailed it to you.
Okay, so he will be emailing it, and that was the revenue for the ambulance. I have a question, just real quickly, looking at the mutual aid potential revenue. You have something in there for this year, which is you have a year-to-date and an estimate. So I guess I was trying to figure out, you're saying you're currently at 49 and you're anticipating an additional 40? I was trying to understand this.
Yes, it probably should not have been put on the year-to-date,
Okay.
but for the estimate, that was if we got the ambulance from last third of the year, be about 150 ambulance transports based on the numbers that Deputy Chief Kuhn gave me.
Okay. All right, I will look at that better before tomorrow and send you a question, because it was a little confusing, so, thank you. That was it out of finance that was on the agenda. However, we did have some new business, and I am regretfully and not surprisingly reporting this number, which is not gonna make a lot of people happy to hear. Annual stop loss, program. Jen, and if you wanna jump in, Jen and Joe have met with all the, bids and the applicants and reviewed that for 2023 through 2024, to start June 1st, right? Yeah, June 1st. Currently, we are with Highmark as the administrator, insurance carrier. The bad news is keeping the same policy, and the recommendation from Joe Bolito, the acting controller, or part-time controller, whatever you wanna call him, and Jen, is to stay with the same bid, but unfortunately, the increase is 37%. For a budget hit of increase of $160,521 for next year. So all these times I keep saying that we've got all these increases, this was a pretty significant one. I was expecting to see an increase, I'm not gonna lie, but I wasn't expecting to see 37% for $160,000, so. They gave us some other options, which was a higher deductible. Again, that's the principle of pay now or pay later. So therefore, Joe is very versed in this, and Finance Committee agrees with his recommendation of keeping it at the same deductible, but with a significant increase.
Is this the result of some large bills, or is it just cost of doing business?
So it's the cost of doing business and the cost of insurance right now, and we have, on our plan currently, 5 people who passed that stop loss amount of $175,000, and there's no plan change in that, so.
I will add that it is based on high-cost claimants, and unfortunately, as Jen and I were discussing, I think a couple days ago, we've had several that have had hospital bills that were just completely unexpected,
Right.
and medical,
Stuff you can't control.
pharmaceutical bills that are, as you mentioned, things that we just can't control that are being prescribed, and life-saving in many cases. So.
And
the issue
lifelong.
is
And lifelong.
Yeah, and you're not, yeah, you might have one come off, but you might have another one going on. I mean, stop loss is really technically a gambling, if you will, of your numbers are who are gonna hit it and who's not, so.
And in your packet, I believe that Jen had included some information.
I didn't include that last.
Okay. So if council members have any individual questions about generalized member issues, let us know and we can answer those.
I think they refer to it as lasering.
Yeah.
You have,
Yeah.
that's your insurance term for when you have
Sure.
high-cost individuals that
Mhm.
kind of skew the whole policy because you have a small number of individuals who are using a high percentage of the insurance. So.
And these figures are without lasering.
Right.
Highmark is not,
Yeah.
has agreed not to laser any of our claimants.
And just to confirm, we want to keep the same deductible. That was the recommendation.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought I heard. Just confirming.
Yep, same deductible.
And we will make sure a resolution gets on the agenda, just so council members are aware there'll be a new business agenda.
Thank you. And there were some businesses who refused to quote it, just so you know.
5 of them.
So,
So Highmark, Be Assured, and HM Life.
HM Life is.
HM Life is Highmark.
It's Highmark's subsidiary name for their policy.
Yeah, there is some attachment with the ones that decided not to quote. So. That is it out of finance. Sorry to end on a bad note.
All right, we'll move on to public safety. Brent?
Thank you, Mr. President. We started our meeting with Representative Matt Arnold from Lunar Pyros, a fire entertainment group. They're going to be doing some presentations or some performances this year in the city of Jamestown, specifically at the Early Bird and Whirly Bird festivals. Mr. Arnold showed us some videos of the performances. Several safety issues were discussed with the fire chief, and looks pretty exciting. I think Councilman Reynolds might be learning how to do this at some point, but we're not sure.
These are a demonstration for the committee.
He needs some lessons first. But we wanted to hear about that. They're looking at doing another event at McCray Point, which will be coming back to the Public Safety Committee next month, and we'll be talking about So we did have several special event applications, one block party application, excuse me, the block sale block party on Saturday, August 5th. With the rain date of Saturday, August 12th from 9 until 5 p.m. This is on Fullerton Street between Royal and Woodward Avenue. That was approved. And then with regards to the early bird and the whirly bird festivals, they had some amendments. The first was requesting that the Lunar Pyros be granted permission to perform at the May 27th early bird event, as well as during the whirly bird festival from July 20th through 22nd. There'll be performances both nights with that. Just a note, the Lunar Pyros does carry a $1 million insurance policy there, as well as taking several safety precautions to prevent any injuries. They also requested that the Arthur R. Gren beer truck be authorized to park on North Main Street for the duration of the Whirly Bird Festival, being picked up the following Monday, following the conclusion. Originally, they had proposed parking in a handicap spot on North Main Street, and that was pretty soundly rejected because the street isn't going to be closed 24 hours a day. There are businesses there that can, patrons can use the handicap spot when the street is not closed. So they said, you need to find a better spot than that. So they're going to move it across the street on North Main Street.
Thank you.
You are welcome. And they also requested amending the road closure times for the Early Bird Festival, which is going to be on East 3rd Street, and then the Early Bird Festival on North Main Street and East 3rd, I believe. From 10 a.m. until midnight. I think they originally proposed opening up the street a little bit earlier, but they wanted a little extra time for the breakdown there. So all those amendments were approved. And we have a special event application for the annual Scandinavian Folk Festival to be held on Saturday, July 15th. We have the setup on the 14th, breakdown on the 16th. Hours of operation are from 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. This event is held in the Northwest Ice Arena, but they will also be closing down Lafayette Street and having some tables and demonstrations out there between 2nd and 3rd Street. Insurance was pending on that one, so we approved that pending the receipt of their insurance. And then also the annual St. James Italian Festival will be held on July 22nd. We're setting up from the July 18th and breaking down on July 24th. Hours of operations are 12 p.m. till 7 p.m. And we'll be closing this down Institute Street between Allen Street and Victoria, which is right along the parking lot there. And that was approved. And then, so the Fenton Historical Society's 60th anniversary gala will be held on Saturday, July 29th, between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. This will be held on their grounds. They did apply for a special event application because they will be having wine and beer. It won't be sold, but it's included in the price of the ticket there. So that was approved. The next one was the Gus Macker 3-on-3 basketball tournament returning to Jamestown to be held from Friday, August 18th through Sunday, July 20th. Hours of operations are from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. And this will be held on Harrison Street between Foot Avenue and South Main Street. So that will be blocked off for those days. That was approved. Happy to see that coming back to Jamestown. And finally, not on our agenda, but we did receive an application for the Vote with Pride event. The date here is Friday, July 2nd. This will be held on Tracy Plaza, where they will be having the annual Pride flag raising event. They'll also be setting up a photo registration booth and having some food vendors there. There's just a little confusion about whether they were having recorded music or not. I'm not sure, so we're going to try to clarify that. They said something about being in Mechanics Alley, but we thought everything could be on the Tracy Plaza. So that was approved, just pending the clarification of that. And that's all we have. Busy summer coming up.
All right. Randy, we want to Public Works?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. All of our resolutions were covered in finance just previously, so we were all set there. There was an informational report for a stop sign at Towner and Arlington. And after speaking with Mark Reitzer, they go by how many accidents there has been in that intersection, and they also go by traffic flow. And the accidents are nowhere near what they would have to be. And the traffic flow, although high at times, probably when school lets out or comes in, would be a high time, but you have to have an average of 300 cars an hour, and on the average, it doesn't get that. So we did not approve the stop sign due to the fact that it doesn't meet the requirements, the parameters. So the other thing is the construction project list is got finalized on Friday. We had a meeting, and a lot of the projects are already underway, such as Roland Road. The BPU is almost completed their utility work, and the project total is $3,021,000. Two of the projects are ARPA funding, which is Roland Road and Juliet, and CHIPS program is 1.9 million in CHIPS. And so we expect good things to happen this year. Like last year, they had great weather to get this done, and like we discussed in committee, and Mark let us know that pretty much is keeps the city forces at maximum capability manpower wise. So it'll be a full slate. There's a lot of resurfacing and maintenance being done. I'll be getting this list out very shortly to the other council members. Okay, I haven't gotten to it, but I'm going to get that out, and I'm sure they're going to have in the newspaper, right? A press release.
Yes, just to clarify, that list has not been finalized. Randy was part of our initial draft. So our typical process is to have the chair of Public Works go through that, review the roads, and then provide it to council members for any additional information. Once we've confirmed and Randy is good, we in the meantime put together a press release and start to confirm those roads, and we'll get it out to the public. But so Randy's reviewed them, and I believe what we discussed, him getting it out to you all for additional any other changes or moves from that list.
Right.
Can I ask you, are you done? Because I have a question for you, for Mark or for the mayor. Now after the beautiful tree planting, I saw a backhoe on 3rd Street. Is National Fuel now doing the gas lines because they have dug up a
I've seen
trench
them doing it today.
going across 3rd Street now? You know, not where the trees are planted,
No.
but it's devastating to see all
It is.
that beautiful work done, and now there are mounds
I
of
seen it
dirt.
today.
But I don't know if it's National Fuel. Do you know who's doing the digging now? After all of that work and all of the turmoil for 3 years, they're digging it up again.
So it was the contractor that I saw out there today. I didn't know anything about it either. It was Northrop, and I believe that they are a subcontractor of National Fuel.
You got to be kidding, so that whole street's gonna get dug up now.
I don't know that that's true, but I'll reach out to them and find out what the extent of that, what they're doing there is. Before that project started, we coordinated with National Fuel to avoid something like that.
I believe you, but it was heartbreaking to see all that work that was done, and then now you've got mounds of dirt going.
Yeah, I seen it and I said, you gotta
Okay.
be kidding me.
Okay, you had
Today.
the same
Today,
reaction that I
digging.
did.
Oh, yeah.
I
We'll get some further clarification
Yeah.
to you all once we
Well,
figure this
well,
out.
here's my point, because if it's any indication of what they've done in the past, get on them to get it done and get it landscaped and
Right.
finished, because it's a disgrace to have all that beautiful work, everything the BPU did, everything everybody else did, and then have it look terrible again with, it's just a shame.
If they jump on the landscape, and it probably, the growing pain won't be that bad, but what they do is when they fill it in, they wanna allow time for settling sometimes, so hopefully, they probably should just bring a tractor and roll it down and mash it in and put some tractor in it.
Maybe you can get after
Maybe
them,
we
Randy,
can,
because,
yeah.
I mean, it's just a
But
shame.
sitting on it, I probably don't think we really wanna stand for them sitting on it, I gotta tell you that we won't. No, because I've seen, and you've seen in your ward, that when they sit on it.
We get complaints
Yeah.
because they leave it where there's rocks and all
Yeah,
kinds of,
I've seen-
and the owner can't do anything
No,
with it.
down on Huxley and that, yeah, I know.
Yeah, down on
Yeah.
Harding, so
Yeah,
I'm not trying to, but
Okay.
if somebody can make sure that they don't leave it a mess.
It's
or-
noteworthy that you said that, yeah.
Well, the homeowners won't be happy after
No,
all of that, I can
if-
guarantee you.
Well, they might just stay on the one side. I seen the UFPO markings and I just seen them on the, you know, on the westbound side, so hopefully they don't go both, but you never know.
Thank you.
Okay. And other than that, I think that sums up the public works.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Before we go to the mayor's remarks, or anything else in open session? Okay. Fine, you're up.
I'm up. Okay. Hello, everyone.
Make it quick, let's go.
Okay.
You get 2 minutes.
Get moving. All right. Well, let's get going here. Just a couple updates. Number one, we're confirmed for tomorrow in the mayor's conference room. Just as a reminder for folks, we will have Julie, who is our project manager from FEMA, zooming in for us. We will also stream that meeting as well as we do every other council meeting for those that can join. I do want to note and that you received today the mini repair grant from Crystal and in her office. This is in the use of rescue plan funds in order to get funds out to those that may not have qualified for the other, for example, senior housing programs and others. So Crystal is seeking any feedback that you all have on that. So just wanted to point it out. I don't know, Crystal, if you want to mention anything about it.
Just that I know you guys got it late in the day, so I don't expect that you have any questions at this point, but if you could review it, let us know your thoughts, if there's anything that is of concern. The way it's structured is we're proposing that it's up to $2,500. The homeowner is responsible for a 10% match. If they do have a hardship, they can let us know that, and we'll take that into consideration on a as needed basis. Other than that, we also are proposing that the income limit is 125% of area median income, which is quite high. And you know, we don't anticipate that it gives somewhat of a income limit, but it really doesn't. I think that probably 90% of our population will still qualify.
Will this, first of all, be people who already got anything under ARPA previously, will they please not be given
Correct.
priority, that these will be individuals?
Option
who-
C,
Okay.
page
and I'll
2.
make-
I saw
Sorry,
that, so
I
thank
know.
you.
I just wanna make sure that that is a factor, because people have already received funding. I
Yes.
know if there are people that didn't qualify, they will be very upset to find out if people already got it.
All right, great. So any thoughts or questions that you guys have on it, let us know. Like I said, we wanted to get it out to you as a rough draft to get any further information. I do want to also note that I will be at NICOM this week in Albany, so Wednesday through Friday at our annual conference, the New York Conference of Mayors, which I'm sure that there will be a lively discussion over the budget that was just passed and trying to figure out what's going to come to cities is part of it. I don't have an answer for that yet. I'm not quite sure. I think we're all still trying to figure that out. But the other thing I just had handed out to you all is a bond proposal, and I have obviously Mr. Reitzer's behind me as well. We limited the needs really to the municipal facilities, and this is just the first draft for you all. I know there's not a lot with it, and that's intentional because we want you guys to take the time you need to discuss it and go through some of those items. But I wanted to just give you a high-level overview of what we're looking for in terms of a bond. The request is $6.4 million, and you might think, wow, that's a really big bond, until I tell you the cost to replace the roof here at City Hall is $1.8 million alone. So we are looking at several different projects as part of it. We've broken them down. The first one is municipal building improvements and repairs. That's $3.1 million. That includes the roof. We had hoped that the patching that we did on the roof was going to hold. We are still seeing leaks within the building on that roof, and so it will need to be replaced. As a reminder, the building opened up in 1971, so I don't know if anyone got a chance to be there for it, but it certainly needs a lot of love along the way. I looked at everyone. This was an equal opportunity look.
I was 10.
We've also talked about security improvements and enhancements. There's obviously been a big concern about just individuals in the building. Some of our tenants take people later than what we have security for. So we've had discussions on key fobbing various doors that still allow for push out for fire ingress and egress, but also trying to key fob the elevators and others in order to kind of lock the building down a bit more after hours when we don't typically have security. One of the recommendations that we've had just in the last several months of people coming in and out of the building. We've also talked about window replacement. There are 17 damaged windows currently on the building, and as you all know, it takes some time to get those windows and replace them. Some of which have been cracked, some have been damaged by various incidents, and some have just lost the weatherization in between the panes. We're also talking about HVAC upgrades. Again, this is just this municipal building. We have 27 heating and cooling units in the fire station that are currently at their end of useful life, many of them broken. So we're looking for a replacement of that. We're also looking for the replacement of the HVAC control system. Now, why this is important is that that system also controls the Steel Street building as well as the Parks building on one. That system was created and installed back in 2006, and it is virtually impossible to get any updates or repairs to those control systems. And as you may or may not know, JCC has a program just dedicated to building control systems now because it's changed dramatically. We're also talking about the building of the DPW roof. We have an old roof which is now shrinking and pulling the parapet walls in. So we do need funding in order to replace that roof. And then here's a big ticket item, the Fenton roof. $2 million to replace the roof on the Fenton. So this is obviously a very delicate process for that building. As a reminder to City Council, or for those that are new, we own the Fenton building. So we are, the Fenton Historical Society is our tenant. So we do provide a repair to that. I do want to note that we are saying the $2 million, but we're fairly confident that we'll be able to get additional grant funding to cover a majority of this. But yes, there is grant funding for it. However, we're just in the stages of applying for it. And I wanted to give you guys the full number so I don't have to come back and say, well, you know, we really needed more. Okay. And then on the back of it, fleet maintenance building gap funding. And Mark, I'm sure, can talk to you about this a bit more. Jeff and Joe have been working on an actual finalized spreadsheet for you all. We anticipate the gap funding to be about $500,000. We have applied for the $1 million reimbursement from the state for that building. And so that's all that we think will be needed or left. And then the Bergman Park water line. I know this isn't really a municipal building, However, we have painstakingly ripped up and repaired this water line many times. In the last couple months, there was another repair of it that we don't believe we're going to be able to continue to patch repair that water line. So between the BPU and the DPW, we estimate that cost to be about $500,000. So total amount, $6.4 million. In speaking with Jen and Joe and our financial planners, the city can comfortably borrow probably up to around $12 million without any major impact to our what we currently have. We are very low on our actual debt right now as a city, and so we wanted to confirm with them what we think we could borrow. The other thing I will point out is we still have ARPA funds. I didn't include it in here because I think it's a discussion for everyone. There is still $1.7 million in ARPA funds that could be applied towards this should the council wish. But that's obviously for some further discussion, which would reduce that debt level.
Do we have any bonds coming off?
I'm just gonna ask.
I can look into it. I don't know offhand if we have any bonds coming off. I'll pull up the bond list and send it over to you guys.
There's gotta be some there.
And also, just an estimate, if we took the whole 6.4, what, just an estimate. I just talked about putting 160 million, or 160,000 on, what would be the impact on the budget?
Sure. Yep. We can certainly estimate that. I think that we just.
Obviously a real estimate. I know.
Yeah, I think that we got. We just had some bands that got rated, and they were around 4%. Is that right? Between 3 and 4% is what we're getting for percentage points. So.
Just to have an estimate.
Yep.
No, I don't wanna interrupt.
No, I said, I was looking for an estimate.
My question about these windows, because they're not energy efficient that I know of. Are the new windows that you're ordering going to be any better than these? Or the issue for me is, are we going to continue to spend the kind of money on these gold filmed windows versus, I know it would be awful, but maybe it's time to start replacing these windows with energy efficient windows. When you talk about climate action, these are horrible. Go down to the second floor and half of the windows you can't look out of. I don't know if they're on the list to be replaced, but I can't even imagine. I've never counted all the windows in this building, but I almost feel like we're throwing good money after bad to keep trying to get these windows, which are very hard to get, they're very expensive, versus trying to begin a process of replacing these windows in a manageable fashion. I don't know, I may be totally off base, but.
We'll certainly look into that and try to get you information on it.
Condition of them, and another one goes, and you gotta wait, I don't know how long, cause there's only one company in the entire world that makes them, and we're at a tipping point of how many more times can we keep replacing these windows? You know, whether it's 350 now, or I don't know how much it's gone into it before, but.
We'll certainly look into it. We were most of these early stages of getting quotes and information on it, but we'll look into it and get back to you guys. Get back to you on it.
I appreciate it.
Again, no action need to be taken right now, but if you have other questions that come up as you think through this, we'll be talking through it during your committee meetings as well. We're going to give you initial costs. The biggest thing is, we didn't want to just take out money and repair the roof, right? We tried patching and it still has not been successful, so those are the biggest needs. On a positive note, this morning we had a call with one of our bond raters, Moody. For those that may remember, the last time Moody rated the city, they gave us junk bond status. And we did a ratings call with them, and it was very, very positive. We anticipate this week they will be releasing our rating, and it's going to be much, much higher than junk status, which is certainly a positive thing. So, I'll also note Moody's has now changed their ratings. So it does incorporate other environmental factors, which has been positive for the city. It was just kind of a straight credit rating before, and now it's additional factors to it. So more information to come later this week, but very positive in terms of the city's finance and credit score. And then the last item that I have for you all is more of a teaser than anything else, which is be on the lookout tomorrow. There may be a national announcement coming related to workforce development in the city of Jamestown. So. I know, I gave you nothing more than that. I apologize. We were told to be quiet, but we anticipate an announcement coming potentially
I'm not
tomorrow.
gonna sleep now.
I won't either, Tony. I'll be with you.
Right.
You can call me at midnight. So. Other than that, I do have 2 items for executive session, one for litigation and one for labor contract negotiations.
Eddie, we did have the tree planting ceremony.
We did have the tree planting ceremony. Yes, yes. Thank you to our parks department. Thank you to all of our partners. Thank you to the council members that came and helped us plant the trees and the members from the community. It was also a celebration of Arbor Day, which was absolutely great. And we were treated to Dan Stone's famous limerick in rhyme that he does each Arbor Day. And it was wonderful to be able
He's
to
not
see.
bad, but I mean, I'm an English teacher, but just
Okay.
sorry, Dan.
Penny.
You get an A for effort.
Hands on.
Yeah, you want to talk about it?
Or you can.
What, when
Hands on.
it's-
Saturday.
This Saturday.
So also as a reminder to city council members that there's Hands on Jamestown, Hands on Neighborhoods, which is the Jamestown version, will be this Saturday starting at 8 a.m. I believe.
8 a.m.
Tracy
Tracy
Plaza?
Plaza.
8 a.m. Tracy Plaza. Unlike the tree planting, you do not have to bring a shovel, but we will provide you with other things. So
And Crystal's gonna do a limerick.
possibly.
I am not going to do a limerick. I couldn't top Dan.
All right. Again, 2 items for executive session: 1 litigation, 1 labor contract negotiation. No action to be taken.
I have a motion to go in executive session. And I'll move all in favor. Aye. We need